Hello, and welcome to the Abundantly Favored podcast, where faith meets mindset, gratitude fuels growth, and your words shape your world. We're your hosts, Jenny and Shelley, two sisters, wives, moms, and lifelong encouragers who believe God has richly equipped you to live an abundant life.
Each week, we dive into real conversations about mindset, faith, purpose, and the power of speaking life. Whether you're in the car, on a walk, or curled up with coffee, consider this your weekly dose of encouragement.
Abundantly favored, walking in grace, carried by mercy, held in His place. Abundantly favored, chosen and free, overflowing with love for all to see.
Hello. Welcome back,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone. Welcome. So good to
Yes,
have you
okay.
here with us.
Yes. So we want to dive in right away with our Bible verse. So our Bible verse for this week is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Now, we really want to talk about this now because graduation season is upon us. And the main thing we're talking about today is the empty nester season. So we are both empty nesters,
Yes.
and we're here for you to let you know if you're entering into this. Maybe you have a few years out. Maybe your baby is a senior. Maybe you've been in this season for a long time. We're just going to talk through that a little bit. So, Shelley,
Yes.
what were things like when you became an empty nester?
Well, I will say it kind of starts when your first one goes off. Jenny and I both have 3 children. And as everybody knows, your kids' personalities are all completely different. If you're anything like my family, and I'm sure you are. And so our first daughter, Hannah, she was kind of the life of the party. And like we always knew everything that was going on. She'd come home and talk about everything. She was funny, cracking everybody up. And my other 2 are just a little bit more quiet. They are super fun too, but just a little bit more quiet because when Hannah was home, like she was the entertainment. And so when she left, like there was just a shift in our household, and it wasn't necessarily a bad shift. We did miss her and all the just funny things that she would talk about all the time. But what ended up happening is like we actually started to hear our other 2 kids' voice. Like it's like, oh, you guys speak. Like before they would just kind of, I felt like they would just hang out and listen to Hannah, and we all would. And so there was that first shift, that dynamic change where one leaves, and then it's like, okay, you get to know the other kids in a different way. So it was a sad thing when you send your first one off, but at the same time, it really opened up the personalities of our other 2 kids as well.
That is so cool. I would agree with that as, when you send your first one off, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. Well, Jonah, our oldest, total boy, right? So I kept telling him, it's like, okay, you need to get stuff for your dorm room. What do you want to get? And he just didn't want to do it. Like he hated shopping anyway. So I, as a mom, I did not want to send him to college unprepared. So I bought everything for him. Well, that did not make my husband very happy. He thought I was enabling him. And I literally had to say to Chris, listen, I have been his mom his entire life. I am not sending him to college without bed sheets. Like,
Right.
I know what he needs. He doesn't care. I'm at least getting him set up. So that's what I did. I still don't know if I mean, a guy with his son would be more like, hey, you didn't go buy bed sheets. That's on you. That's not the mom, right?
Right.
So that was
He'll
a
figure
struggle.
it out.
But yes. And I still remember driving him to college. The girls were along too. And it was hard going there. But once I saw his room and saw him interacting with his roommates, the drive home was totally fine because I knew college was such an awesome experience for me. I knew what he was about to embark on, so that was so cool. I'll keep going with the other kids too. So Bailey, when she went to college, she was ready to go to college her sophomore year of high school. She was just ready. So with her, I had already sent Jonah off to college. I knew Bailey was ready. So that was really fun for me. She got everything she wanted for her dorm room. I didn't do any of that. She picked everything out. And sending her to college was actually really fun because once again, I knew what she was about to embark on and I knew she was ready for it. Not that Jonah wasn't, but just your first one was hard, right? Then
Hmm.
there was Ava. So, well, before I get into Ava, do you want to talk about Nolan sending him off?
Right. So I had to laugh when you said, Jonah didn't care what his betting was or anything. That was totally Nolan. And back to his graduation party, Hannah was everything down to the details of she had a color scheme and, for
Yes.
her grad party, plus for her, she and her roommate color coordinated their whole room and bedding and all of
Yes.
that. Where Nolan, like, he did not care at all about the party, I'm like, do you just want me to pick everything out? He's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. And he
Yes.
really did, which was kind of less stressful because then we just did it. But
Yes.
yeah, so when he went off to college, and he is my funny kid that like when the girls would come home, they'd pack everything in like a travel bag. Nolan would literally like come home with like a garbage sack of stuff. I'm like, Nolan. Like, or when it was time to move out, like he would just have gotten garbage sacks instead of like boxes or tubs or totes and just kind of
Yes.
like he did not care, and he's still frugal to this day. Like, why spend the money on that kind of stuff? And so it's kind of funny.
Yes.
When Molly went to school, she's the baby of the family, and
Mhm.
so Nolan and Hannah are about 2 years apart, and then Nolan to Molly are 4 years apart. And so Molly had like 4 years by herself with us. And most kids, like Hannah and Nolan, I feel like were ready to get on out of here. And Molly was like, she was kind of a homebody. She loved just kind of hanging out with us. And so that was a little bit harder because she didn't give us any trouble like as a high schooler. Not that Hannah and Nolan did, but wink, wink. Some kids are, just like to have a lot of fun and like to spice things up. So that
Yeah.
was a little bit harder dropping her off. And we'll kind of talk about what it's like when you drop off your last one and the emotions
Yeah.
and just being the empty nester.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the grad parties too, because Jonah, the same thing. It's like, so we do school colors, right? He goes, I really don't care, Mom. So I took over,
Yeah.
which I may have loved, which was fun. Bailey, now Bales, if you're listening to this, you'll get it because okay, don't get mad. With her, I was kind of already like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell this girl this is not a wedding. Like I was like, I'm
Right.
gonna have to tame it down. Well, she graduated in 2020.
Oh,
So
yes.
everything was different, right? So
Hmm.
so much uncertainty. So with her, the way our property is set up, we decided mid-May when we normally would have done her grad party, even though school wasn't even in session, we did a drive-through graduation party and
Hmm.
it was fantastic. So we live in an acreage and our lane, our driveway, whatever you want to call it, comes into our house, but then goes behind our house to my husband's shed. So we literally took those like pallets and I laminated every single picture and blew them up into like 8x10s and put them on these pallets. So as people drove in, there was like each stage of her life. We kept it super simple. We did little cartons of lemonade and monster cookies. That's what we gave to people.
Hmm.
And we may or may not have had shots of vodka we could put in that lemonade, which,
Uh-huh.
okay, they had to be legal and have a
It
driver,
was
but
it was the
that may have
option for
happened.
the
Yes.
passenger
Yes.
of
But it
age
was great.
passenger.
Like, she still got to have a party. Everyone loved getting out. They were so ready to get out. And the way we did it, we felt it was safe because it was a drive-through
Mhm.
party. So with her, that kind of solved that problem. Like me, I didn't have to tell her this isn't a wedding because at that point, I wanted
Right.
to do as much as I could to make it as special as possible, knowing she had missed out on so much. So, but
Yes.
when Ava gets ready to look at colleges, and our kids are the same distance apart, right? So Jonah and Bailey are 2 years old, 2 years apart. Bailey and Ava are 4 years apart. So Ava as well had those 4 years with just us. Not sure if she loved it or not, but we loved it. It was great. But she decided to look at colleges out of state. So not only
Mhm.
am I dealing with getting ready to send my baby off to college, but she's like, hey, I don't want to go to college in Iowa. Let's look at these colleges. So we toured one in North Carolina. Well, actually, before we even toured it, I said, do you really think you want to go to college out of state where you know no one and you're a plane ride away? And she's like, well, I'll get a friend to go with me, which she didn't. Long story short, she is at Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, Florida, and she is loving it and she does great.
Mhm.
So tell
Yeah.
me, because we do kind of want to dive in before we actually do have some nuggets for you guys to get through this. But so what was it like when you dropped off Molly that first time? Granted, she was what, 45 minutes away from your home,
Right. She
but
wasn't
she's a
that far
homebody.
away,
So
which all of
yeah.
my kids went to school where Rich and I met actually at UNI. And so it was kind of bittersweet and at the same time, all of our kids were blessed with wonderful roommates, which I know that is not always the case. And so it's always fun to meet the families and we really hit it off with Molly's roommates family and like we did with the other kids as too. But um, it was okay. And a lot of people we want to talk about what it feels like to live in an empty nest. And I have friends who it has kind of devastated them when they send their last ones off. I have friends who are like throwing parties like, "Woo, we're free." And I was kind of somewhere in the middle. I actually and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but I really because I knew they were all so happy dropping them off and they were so excited for that next phase. I just couldn't help but be happy for them. And
Mm.
I am a teacher by day and so I was used to having busy schedule, working, going to the kids' activities, doing all of the things. But my husband was coaching high school girls basketball at the time too. And so I still did all of the things. I feel like, I would go to all of his games. I'd even go to the away games. So in some ways, it's like I wasn't disconnected from the schools because both he and I work for the schools. And so it wasn't as much as of a cutoff like it is for some people. And so for us, we just kind of cruised into it and are loving it and enjoying it. So I don't know how it
Hmm.
was for you, Jenny, those first few months.
Yeah, well, backing up to dropping Ava off at college, okay, a little different situation, right? Because she's going to college in Florida. So what we did is I actually rode with her. She drove her car down. My other two kids, I didn't want them to have a car. They both went to Iowa State. I didn't
Hmm.
want them to come home every weekend. Ava, different story. I'm like, she's going to college in Florida. Hurricanes happen there. I want her to have an escape route on her own if she needs it.
Sure.
So I'm like, she's having a car. So um, I rode with her, drove down, got to her dorm. Chris flew in and met us there. So we moved her all in, and then we flew home. And I am very much so. All three of our kids live out of state. So with that, one thing as a mom, I want to know when I'm going to see them again when I
Hmm.
leave them. And I think I already knew. Actually, we were planning. My bestie Jen and I, and I think her daughter Livy, we were planning on going to visit in October. So we have that on the calendar. That was great. Well, that October, I don't want to sidebar too much, but that's when a hurricane hit. So it hit the week before we were supposed to go, so we canceled. But she ended up flying home for that week because the college shut down campus, which I'm so thankful for.
Hmm.
So that has been different to navigate too. It's like, we in Iowa deal with tornadoes, right? Never dealt with a hurricane before. So when it was coming, I actually called my brother, who's a meteorologist. It's like, okay, talk me through this. What do I need to know? So he helped with that. But
Right.
anyway, for us, everyone asks, once you become an empty nester, how's it going? What's it like? And literally for the first 4 months, my response was, it's just weird, because it was
Hmm.
so weird. Just not, I was fortunate enough to the job that I have, my day job is super flexible. So I was the mom that Ava would text me and say, "Oh my gosh, I forgot my spikes for the cross country meet. Can you bring that in?" And so I was able to do a lot of those things. So I did miss not being able to do that, but it literally took The whole first semester, I would say, of that, it's just weird. But then she
Hmm.
came home for Christmas break. And honestly, my hubby and I were excited when she went back because you do get into a groove for
Hmm.
that for sure. Um, and the
Don't take
biggest
that
thing,
personally, Ava.
what's that?
I said, don't take that personally, Ava.
No, she
Someday
was
you'll get
ready to
it.
get back too,
Yes,
and we know
right,
that as well, which is
right.
super fun. Um, I don't know. Should we? Do you have anything else to share before we dive into the
No,
good
but
nuggets we
I
have?
will I will say that it is sometimes this season that comes upon you that nobody really talks about until you're in it, and then you're wondering if you're feeling normal. So Jenny and I came up with 5 ways to navigate your next season. Okay, so we're going to walk you through these 5 ways, no matter what the season is you're going through. Whether it's empty nester or maybe now all of your kids are married and have grandkids and you're kind of just not knowing what your place is in life, these 5 things that you can do will hopefully help you navigate that. Want to hit
Absolutely. And the
one,
other
Jen?
thing too, yeah, if you're far from being an empty nester, I would say regardless of the stage you're in, you know someone who is either a brand new empty nester, they're about to be, or maybe they're about to send their first kiddo off into the world. These will help you help them too and give you something to look forward to. So, number one
Right.
is we want you to see this season as open, not empty, right? So, what if this isn't empty? Okay. So, because that really has kind of a negative connotation, right? Oh, we're empty. No, you're not, man.
Hmm.
You can fill your space with other things. Like maybe it's a time where you can look into your faith a little deeper. Your marriage, you hear so many people that say we were so into our kids' schedules and lives. I don't know the person I'm married to. Thankfully, that wasn't the case for either Shelly or me. We had a super strong marriage, so we actually embraced that to be able to be fun. Of course, both of our
Hmm.
husbands will joke, "Don't come over, we're going to be naked." Seriously.
Knock first. Knock
Yeah,
first.
yeah, no. You can also work on your purpose. Like before you were a mom, you were something, or even while you were a mom, you had something going on. So look at it as something to fill, right? That will bring you purpose and fulfillment. The other thing too is you have to remember is your kids are excited to be where they're going. And maybe if they're
Mhm.
not, it's a great learning experience for them. Like let them go, let them experience it. And you can do the same thing. So just bringing it back to
Right.
that Bible verse too, there's a season for everything. And this season has purpose too. Um, yeah,
That's right.
that's
That's
number
right.
one.
Okay, so number 2, start small. You don't have to reinvent everything. This is important. You don't need some great big plan. Just
Mm,
maybe start with some simple shifts. And we're going to talk about like how your life opens up and there are other opportunities that might come your way, but even starting as small as like just a simple different morning routine. Like we were
mhm.
so used to our household was chaos in the mornings. I feel like when the kids were growing up, getting everybody where they needed to go, getting them breakfast, getting their make sure they had all their stuff. And so now when you don't have that as much, maybe you have that for yourself a little bit or your spouse, but think about what kind of a new morning routine could you start creating. Maybe it's that quiet moment with God. Maybe that's, I'm actually going to be able to sit down and read the Bible. Or just, I'm going to go out and take a walk. And I
Mm.
haven't been able to do that before, while I was raising my kids. So look at it as an opportunity to just start small and incorporate some new routine or activity into your day or into your mornings.
Oh, I
What's
love
number
that.
3, Jen?
Okay, number three, reconnect with what brings you life. Okay, literally,
Mhm.
what did you used to love, right? I know when you're raising kids, that's so important to be there for them, especially if they're very active in sports and everything. And as a parent, you love doing that and you want to be there. For me, I book club, right? I would love to go to book club, but there were so many nights when it's like, oh, we've got this event going on, we can't do it. So just um, re engaging in book club. what have you put on hold? There's definitely things that we put on hold when our kids, especially those high school years, because it is so busy. And if you guys aren't at the point yet where you have high schoolers and you think, oh my gosh, I'm so busy now, it will continue. It will just be different. And the great thing is
Buckle
when
up.
they can drive themselves, that's
That is
fabulous.
awesome.
So we just want to,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Shell. We just want to say this is your permission to explore, maybe even something you've always wanted to try, but you haven't done yet. Do it. Rediscover yourself again. Make date
Mhm.
nights a constant, which is fun. And maybe date nights are just a fun dinner at home. It can be whatever you want it to be. But the season, it might be inviting you back to something, something that has been missing.
Right. Right. And like
What's number four, Shell?
for Jenny and I starting this podcast, like if you would have told us while we were in the middle of raising our kids, someday you two will have a podcast, we would have been like, what the heck? Like, we don't even have time to
When?
listen to that. And so, I
Yes.
mean, but this has been so much fun to be able to just try something new. And you do kind of, I think the older you get, don't you feel this way too, Jen, that you just, it's like you start to realize like you're being here, waking up every day is such a blessing and such a gift that like make the most of it. Don't like cruise into, your next phase of life thinking, well, this is what I'm going to slow everything down. You can do that
Hmm.
to some extent. And we're very picky and choosy about what we choose to do now, which is awesome. But we're choosing to do things that fill us with joy. So, all right,
Yeah.
number 4, shift your mindset about your role. So
Mm.
instead of thinking, I'm losing my role as a mom, I'm losing my role as, being the primary caretaker. Think about instead, I'm growing into a new one. My purpose, instead of saying my purpose is over, all I've ever been was a mom, or all I've ever been was a working mom and I lived for what my kids would do. You have to think about instead, my purpose is evolving. And again, it goes back to that Bible verse, every season really does invite us into something different. And so it's not about thinking about what you've lost, but it's about thinking about what is God inviting you to do now. And that it can be really exciting.
I love that. Okay, this reminds me of a fun thing that I was able to do Ava's senior year, her soccer season. So I think it was the year prior, her junior year, when there was a really hot game. So I brought orange slices for them to have at halftime. Well, they loved that. So then her senior season, the coach is like, "Hey, are you going to bring orange slices every game?" I'm like, "I can totally bring orange slices every game." I mean, I love being needed and being able to help like that. So I did. Every game, before the game starts, I'm walking across the field bringing this Rubbermaid of orange slices, and they loved it, and it was so much fun. And actually, at the end of the season, the coach was like, "Can you keep bringing orange slices next year?" I'm like, I can't. Sorry. He's like, well, what are we going to do if we don't have orange slices? And I said, you're probably going to lose every game. And he's like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's not what I expected. But anyway, I'm like, you'll find someone to take that over. And that was fun. So that is something that, yes, I was losing a role, but it was kind of like, okay, this is nice because there were days of games where I'm like, oh my gosh, oranges. So I would have to run to the grocery store and
Hmm.
get, but what I loved it. So anyway,
Yes. But
so
there's
it
a
is
season
something.
for it.
Yes, yes. So, number 5, you need to be willing to step into what's next. Okay. You don't need clarity on what that next might be. You just have to be willing and open. Like Shelley mentioned, this podcast, this writing a book, like all of this, we wouldn't have had time. I mean, we
Right.
potentially would have had time, but it wasn't a priority. And
Mm-mm.
I think God knew that that wasn't the right time for us because it is now, right? And
Mhm.
think of the phrase God isn't done. He's just doing something new. So he's doing something new in you when you become an empty nester, and just be open to it, and be willing to listen to what he's putting in front of you and what doors he's opening and maybe what doors he's closing. Like, nope, that's not a great fit for you. So
Right.
once again, you guys, there is a time for everything. And this
Yes.
time of figuring it out and being willing to step into what is next, that matters too, for
It
sure.
does. Well, and I will say, okay, all of you out here listening, just imagine like you're like this little cocoon and the whole time you were raising kids, you were in the cocoon. It was so warm and cozy and you loved it. And now, like, the breaking open is when your kids are leaving. And don't think of yourself as like, oh, my purpose. You're a butterfly now. Like, go fly. I know that's cheesy, but I mean,
That
that's
is,
kind
I
of how
love
you look at
that.
it. It's like, you can like go and fly off and do whatever you want now. And just remember that God is still working in this season too. And
Yeah.
your life could change in unimaginable, wonderful ways if you just, talk to him, ask him, say, okay, God, I'm not doing so hot during this phase. What do you want me? What's my purpose now? And he
Mm.
will show you if you ask him.
Yes. And, really, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, Shelly and I both have talked about how fun it is, I'll say, raising adult children, but I mean, they still need you. You're still their mom. But it's so fun. Like I've been thankful that every stage in life from newborn all the way and up has been my favorite. And I think it's just because
Mhm.
God he prepares you for this, right? So when you lean on him, and just know that he will guide your path to the next right thing, you really can't go wrong, which is so fun.
Right. Yes. So think about it this way. This is not the end. This is just a shift, and it can be a really powerful shift. So, friends,
Yes.
if this has brought you any kind of comfort or hope today, please share this with a friend. We hope that you have already subscribed if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, soon to be coming to Apple as well. And we
Whoop, whoop.
just, yes, woo, we want you to know that we are here for you. We are in your corner. We have something that we are starting called the Inner Circle that we will give you more details about as well, that we would love for you to be a part of. And we just want you to know, what do we want them to know, Jen? That they are
Abundantly favored. Thanks so
That's
much
right.
for joining us.